Jolly Roger Bay is one of my favorite levels in Mario 64. Being able to swim wherever you wanted to and explore every nook and cranny. There was something incredibly liberating about this level back in the day. It's essentially like flying underwater. And for many people, it was probably their first or their closest experience to flying on Mario 64 because you could come to Jolly Roger Bay before you even got the wing cap. And there's just something so peaceful and tranquil about the entire experience, while at the same time being incredibly unnerving and even intimidating. I mean, check out the sunken ship here, and who can forget that giant eel? So I thought it'd be fun to try and recreate it in Super Mario Maker. Now before I show it off, you can actually go play it for yourself using the code on the screen right now, in case you want to avoid spoilers. Otherwise, let's dive right in. Welcome to Jolly Roger Bay, Super Mario Maker Edition. So, as in the original game, there is a cannon right in front of you, complete with a half-buried pillar, so we can try and carefully swim past it here. And of course, what kind of Jolly Roger Bay level would be complete without a bunch of fish? Now, they can actually hurt you in this game, so we're gonna try to swim beneath them here, through this circle of coins. They're gonna rise back up here. And look, 3 pillars right before a massive drop-off. This doesn't look good. Alright, we gotta be careful here. We got more fish. Try and carefully swim beneath them. Oh god, it's a giant eel. Gotta get away. Swim, swim! Oh, jeez, he's following us. There's an intense heartbeat. Let's go inside his home. Let's see what's there. Let's see what he's trying to protect. Oh, it's a power star. Is it coming useful? Bam! Take that, silly eel. Alright, so you can see his home's even covered with green ivy or moss like in the original game. Now let's go down here. Oh, what's this? A sunken ship? How very peculiar. And look, it's even, it seems to be blocking a tunnel right behind it. And looks like we have to go through it in order to go out the exit. It looks like the ship's been here for quite some time, but it's completely covered in seaweed. Alright, but look, hey, there's some treasure chests here. I'm going to hit them all. And we're going to swim through these platforms and we'll go up to where the exit should be. Alright, we made it out into the tunnel. Oh god, the eel's back. Swim, swim! Alright, let's take this warp pipe here. And it looks like it's going to take us to a cave. Alright. What's going on here? Oh god, the pillars are dropping. Jeez. Alright, we gotta be careful. We gotta run through this. Oh man, geez, that's a lot of pillars. Alright, we got more treasure chests here. Alright, looks like we're hitting in the right order. That's a really good sound. Alright, let's see what the last one has. Hey, a power star, alright, let's go and nab it. And let's get out of here. Oh, this is foreboding. A giant skull and crossbones. Alright, look, we're protected, so it's good thing we got the star. And here we are at the flagpole. Alright, so there you have it. That is Jolly Roger Bay in Super Mario Maker. If you want to play it for yourself, you can, using the code on the screen. But let's go ahead and take a quick look at how I made it, and I'll give you some of the insight into what I did to create this level. So, of course, one of the things about Super Mario Maker is each area can only be, you know, a single theme. So, like, for instance, either underwater or above ground. So, obviously, Jolly Roger Bay is mostly underwater, so I decided to go with that as my main theme. Which meant the first part isn't quite true to the original level, because you did start above ground there, but try to mimic it as close as I could, completely the changing, you know, terrain, or changing level of the terrain. Anyways, let's continue onward here. You can see here I used these platforms to mimic the 3 pillars of the original game. I thought it was kind of clever. Alright, we'll continue on to the giant pit here. Now, actually, there's something interesting here. Before I get to that pit, I had to use a lot of ground here in order to make that pit look as large as it does. So I had ground to cover all the changing territory. But one thing is I ran out of ground pieces. You can have 2,000 in a level combined with blocks and whatnot. And I ran out. So basically what I had to do is I had to cut parts of the area, parts of the level out. Now I only cut parts of the level out that you can't actually see. But you can see how close it can get. So you can't actually see it down below, but if I scroll the camera just down a little bit, I cut out entirely. So I did my best, and you really can't see any of that at all, and that was necessary in order to make enough blocks for me to fill in the rest of the area. Alright, so next we have the giant pit here, of course. I lined the cheap cheeps in such a way to kind of direct you where I wanted you to go, because of course you could sink right down to the ship, but wanted you to see the eel first, but the eel's, you know, kind of the main attraction. And yeah, now the reason I used the Wiggler is, for one, the Wiggler, you know, kind of resembles an eel. He's a perfect stand-in, especially with the fact that he actually swims when underwater, which is brilliant. And on top of that, if you make him angry by shaking him, he'll actually follow you around. This mimics the behavior of the original eel, where he'll peek his head out when you got close. So I love that behavior. Then I even added a custom sound effect too. To him, I added a heartbeat sound. So whenever he's on screen, whenever he's chasing you, you hear that heartbeat and see that, you know, see the screen pulsating, making it even that much more terrifying, mimicking the original game. Of course, in the original game, he had a star attached to his tail. You can't do that in this game, but I did add a power star to his home to kind of mimic that same thing. Now, of course, in the original level, that would end the level, but here it just gives you a nice little bonus. Now, here's something else. Of course, I had to have the sunken ship. The sunken ship was key. Now, in the original game, there are multiple ways to end the level, of course, such as with the Wiggler there, grabbing his star, or going inside the sunken ship and grabbing the star there, or going into the tunnel behind it, which led you into a cave that had its own power star. But of course, in Super Mario Maker, you only have one exit per level, so I wanted you to see everything in one go. And I was trying to figure out how could I do that? You know, I wanted you to be able to see the ship, the tunnel, and the eel all in one go. So my idea was, so when I was playing the game, playing Mario 64 recently to, you know, figure this out, I realized that the sunken ship is pretty close to that tunnel. So I thought, wouldn't it be kind of cool to just back the ship even closer to the tunnel in order to block the entrance? And that worked out perfectly. See, I actually forced you through the ship to get into the tunnel. So I thought that was pretty cool. Now, before we continue on, I want to just talk about the ship a little bit. And how I made it look like an actual ship. Because this is part of the reason why I used the new Super Mario Bros. U theme. Because the only one that had a really convincing wooden texture that I could use to mimic a sunken wooden ship, like in the original game. And I then used, I added the bricks around it to give it a shape, to make it look more like a boat. Because those blocks weren't there. Oh, and actually, same thing for the ground too. I used the ground to cover up parts of the ship, or parts of the wood platform, which you'll see here. Then I pulled the ground away. You can see the platform actually extends beyond it, and I didn't want that, but it didn't look much like a ship. So use a ground to cover that, and use the blocks to give the shape a form. Yeah, so I thought it looked pretty good. Now, something else you may be wondering about is, why is there a bullet bill launcher here? There wasn't one in the original game. What is it doing here? And that's a great question, because I had to figure out some way to block the path behind the door. Because originally, you get to swim behind the door and just continue right into the tunnel. You didn't have to go inside the ship, and go inside the ship is key. So originally, I then decided to add like blocks like this. Oops, not like that. Hold on here. Like this, to block the entrance. But they kind of ruined the shape of the ship. I was using it as the, you know, the exterior. So then I was racking my brain, what could I use? Then I remembered you can extend the bullet bill launchers to be basically as tall as you want. So I use that as a wall, and I had a firing Cheep Cheeps. Just to, you know, tie it in a little bit more thematically. But speaking of which, what's brilliant about the bullet bill launcher is it actually has a skull on it. So it almost looks like a flag on the ship flying the skull and crossbones, which is perfect in the level called Jolly Roger Bay. Anyways, next up you go inside the ship, which I'll show you here. And again, I tried to mimic, I wanted to make it look like you're inside the ship and not underwater, or not, not in the underwater level typically. Even though you're still underwater because you can swim here, of course. And I did that by adding another background layer to the side or to the sides and to the top here. So basically, I made it look like you're inside a ship, or I did my best to make it look like that as possible. And if I go into edit mode, you can see how I did that. If you just scroll slightly to the left, look, we're back underwater, and there is the ship again. So yeah, you can see how close it is, and I lined it up just right, so you can't see that border from no matter where you are in the level. So it'll always look like you're underwater in the underwater portion, or it looks like you're inside the ship when you're inside the ship portion. Then I just added sound effects to the chest to mimic, because in the original game you had to open the chest in a certain order, and mimic that here with the light bulb sound effect. And now of course it doesn't matter in this game what order you hit it in. But I just wanted to bring back a little bit of that, idea from the original game. Idea, the light bulbs. Alright, then I used beanstalks, again, to mimic the appearance of it being older and having like moss or seaweed growing all over it. I thought it was pretty cool. I used a bridge to mimic the platforms in the original game in the ship. And then when you take the door, it takes you, of course, to the exit. Now, I had to come up with a new way, or actually, I'll get that in a sec. Sorry, it takes you to the exit of the back door of the ship, which then leads into the tunnel, which takes you to a warp pipe. Now, in the original game, this actually led you directly into a cave. There was no warp pipe there. Now, of course, as I mentioned before, you can't make above, you know, not underwater areas in the same area as underwater. So I figured the best course of action is to add a warp pipe, which would take you inside the cave. Let's see if I can get inside of here. And yeah, so here we are inside the cave. It's a whole separate area, and I made it above ground like in the original game. And try to make it look as much as a cave, like, you know, as much as like a cave as possible. So the walls aren't all completely flat. I even added a ceiling here. And as you may remember, in the original game, it had falling pillars all over the place. So to mimic that, I added these pillar-like structures here, which are actually mushrooms. If I move the thwomp, you can, let's see, go to sound mode. You can see the mushroom there. And then I added thwomps to mimic the falling pillars, because they're stone. It makes sense, right? And then on top of all that, because in the original game, it kicked up a dust cloud whenever they hit. That's why I added the sound effect, or the collapsing roof sound effect, to mimic that. So every time a thwomp drops, it just adds to the idea that the roof is caving in on you, or that the pillars are dropping. So I thought that was pretty cool. Then here we are at 4 more treasure chests as in the original game. Again, you had to open them in particular order, which is why there's a light bulb sound effect again. Now in the original game, it actually did give you a star at the end for doing that. And that's why I added the star here. I thought it was pretty clever. Now, when I got the star, I realized something. There needs to be some reason for it. Like why, you know, there has to be something more of a challenge in order to do that. Now, I've always had... I knew I had some idea of wanting to incorporate the skull and crossbones in the level, and I thought it'd be fun to do it at the end, because there's nowhere else I had room for it, and this is the only part of the level that's not really, doesn't really match up with anything from the original game. I made this part up, so I thought it'd be cool to add something thematic, like a skull and crossbones to it. And that's when, and so when I added the star, I decided to add sheeps here, just as one final challenge to get you through it. So if you have the star as a little bit of a reward to help you finish up the level. And yeah, there you have it. That is basically the idea behind my level. So hopefully you enjoyed it. Again, you can go play it for yourself right now using the code on the screen. And I think I mentioned it, just to double check. I forgot the idea. I've done this video so many times, but I made many mistakes. The reason I use the new Super Mario Bros. U theme is because the wooden panel here looked best in this theme. It did the best job of conveying the underwater theme. And conveying everything else I wanted to too, with the cave and everything else. It was just the only theme that had all the elements I needed to make this look like Jolly Roger Bay. So yeah, there you go. There you guys go. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to play the level, just please have fun. You can use the code on the screen to go check out for yourself. And of course, stay tuned to GameXplain for more on Super Mario Maker, including more levels from us very soon, and other things gaming as well. Thanks guys. Bye.